Did you know 1 in 3 amphibians, nearly half of all turtles and tortoises, 1 in 4 mammals, 1 in 5 sharks and rays, and 1 in 8 bird species are now considered on the brink of extinction? Today I am going to inform you about the importance of conservation for wildlife and their habitats in North America. Agriculture, urban sprawl, tourism, poaching, and industrial development are all major factors contributing to the extreme loss of wildlife habitats, bringing many animals to the brink of extinction. North America is a land of many landscapes stretching from the Arctic to the Tropic of Cancer. North America's wildlife is very diverse, and so are their many habitats, and they all play a major role in our ecosystem. Habitat destruction, pollution, trapping, and climate change are taking their toll on our species and the places they inhabit. One example is the bald eagle, who was placed on the endangered species list in 1978 because of poaching, habitat loss, and also because of DDT, which is a pesticide that was widely used in agriculture. DDT found its way into the rivers and streams, and a steady diet of DDT-contaminated fish caused the bald eagle to lay eggs that were so thin they cracked before they hatched. Bald eagles are not the only species to be affected by deforestation and pesticides. Illegal logging and pesticides in Mexico reduced the populations of milkweed, which is the only food source for the monarch caterpillar, almost wiping out the monarch butterfly species in many areas. Also, honeybees and bumblebee populations have decreased 30% per year since 2006. Honeybees are responsible for pollinating up to 1/3 of our food crops, which we will be living without if this species is wiped out. Albert Einstein once said, "If bees were to disappear, man would have no more than 4 years to live." Fortunately for the bald eagle, efforts have been made to replenish their numbers and get them off the endangered species list. They have been protected under the Endangered Species Act, the Bald Eagle Protection Act, and Migratory Bird Treaty Act. And thanks to these efforts, there are currently 6,000 breeding pairs in North America. When animals are at the top of the food chain, they become an indicator for measuring the health of the entire ecological system in which they live. Scientists have recently begun to understand the vital roles in which the animals play at the top of the food chain in the ecosystem and the profound effects that occur when they are wiped out. New research is citing new evidence showing that the importance of big cats, wolves, bears, sharks, and many other creatures at the top of the food chain have a huge impact all the way down to the bottom. A scientific consensus is emerging that top predators are critical to functions of ecosystems, controlling smaller predators and prey, and also plant life. These researchers began their experiments with aquatic creatures, finding evidence of damage done to entire food chains by predator removal, and have now started these experiments on land creatures. These specialists argue that our persecution of predators menaces the marine and terrestrial ecosystem that produce food, hold human and zoonotic diseases in abeyance, and stabilize the climate. In 1960s hypothesis states, plants prevail because predators hold herbivores in check. These findings emphasize the urgent need for interdisciplinary research to forecast the effects of trophic downgrading on process, function, and resilience in global ecosystems. The loss of these animals may be humankind's most pervasive influence on nature. The effects that follow adding or removing species from the top of the food chains and the effects that are caused from this are called trophic cascades. Robert Payne, a biologist in 1966, conducted an experiment off the Washington coast by removing the purple sea star. He found that mussels took over, crowding out algae, chitons, and limpets, replacing biodiversity with monoculture. Once removed because of habitat loss and poaching, the gray wolf was reintroduced to Yellowstone National Park also, where the elk have taken over population. This reintroduction led to the growth and restoration of willows and other trees along riverbeds, cooling water temperatures for the trout, and encouraging the return of beavers, whose ponds host amphibians and songbirds. This is good news, for the damage to the food chain can be reversed, restoring an ecosystem. Even the tiniest of predators are significant to the ecosystem. For instance, spiders that hunt grasshoppers allow grass and goldenrod to dominate other plants, encouraging the nitrogen cycle, giving protein to animals, and further support plant growth. Conservation efforts have become more prominent in recent years. The conservation movement is a political, environment, and social movement that protects natural resources, plant species, wildlife, and habitats for the future. It is urgent for some North American species futures. Because of excessive logging, trapping, and habitat destruction, grizzly bears are now on the endangered species list, when approximately 15,000 roamed the western U.S. in the 1800s. 3 felines have also made the top 10 endangered species list in North America. The Florida panther has dropped to less than 100. The jaguar is nearly extinct, with only one possible breeding population in Arizona. And the ocelot is nearly extinct in North America and is only rarely sighted in Texas and Arizona. All of this is because of human development with new highways, poaching, encroachment into native habitats, and also run-ins with automobiles. Fishing nets, habitat loss, pollution, and acidification are also to blame for the endangerment of aquatic species around North America. The hawksbill turtle off our coast are now endangered, as are great white sharks. There are fewer than 100 adult sharks in the water, and their pups have become the second highest level of mercury levels in the world compared to other shark species. But it is the polar bear who has become the poster child for global warming. As ice caps melt, they are either drowning or fasting as they are unable to hunt for food. These polar bears are becoming so thin that they are unable to reproduce, making them, and scientists are thinking that they are going to be extinct by the end of the century. Ponder this: almost 1/2 of the U.S. and 1/3 of Canada have been forested, and it is projected that more than 50 million acres of non-federated forest will be converted to urban development use in the next 50 years. According to the University of Michigan's Environmental Studies Department, transformation of forested lands by human actions represents one of the greatest forces in global environment change and drivers of biodiversity. Decisions we make today, along with those of our past, determine the kind of social, economic, and environmental challenges we will face in our future. This is said by Dr. Eric W. Sanderson. Human influence on Earth can be positive or negative, benign or catastrophic. Recognizing this responsibility is the first step each of us can take to transform the human footprint and save the last of the wild.